Hello and welcome to another episode of Pat Baer's Anime Club. This is, I believe, episode 75. Yeah, that's right. I've been doing this for a lot. This is every other Monday an episode comes out where I take a look at something from the world of anime that I'm interested in talking about, and often it is about the current anime season that we are in because people ask me a lot about that. About like, hey, what are you watching? What are you checking out? And later in the season, I'll kind of give like, hey, this is what I think the standouts are. I often do that early in the season, and it turns out sometimes I'm recommending things that I don't even like by the end of it. So I'm going to try to pull back on that. But I can still give you info about some shows that are out this current season for the summer anime season. And I'm going to talk about 7 shows, which of course are the summer 2022 Isekai. That's right, the different world genre or subgenre. There are 7 this season, which actually isn't... It's like... not as high as it's been. It's also not as low as it's been. I'm only watching 4 of them, which for me is a little low. 4 out of 7 isn't, it's actually like, for me, pretty light as far as Isekai go. And there's a good reason for it. And we'll be talking about the 3 categories tonight, or I'm recording this in the evening. In this show, I will talk about the 3 categories: the yes, the eventually, and the no. Let's start with Overlord, Season 4. Now, I'm not watching this weekly. I will be watching this kind of like sporadically in chunks. Overlord is a show that is... if you haven't checked out Overlord, it is now somewhat classic in that it is a person who wakes up in the avatar of the video game character they portrayed. So it's not, sometimes it is, oh, I'm in a video game like world. This one is, oh, I am my character. All the NPCs that I had are real. There's no one else in this world seemingly that has my, that is also a player. As far as I know, I haven't read farther than manga. But as far as up to season 4, only one is Ainz Al Ghul. So Ainz is alone in that he knows this was based on a video game. The world is similar, but slightly different. And it's him finding a place for himself and his NPCs and being sometimes awesome and most of the time awful. Just like an awful, monstrous person. And it's not bad when he's fighting other people who are also monstrous. And I should call it not monster. They're not monsters. They're monstrous because there are monsters that are cool. And that's actually the problem. Is that sometimes our dude just destroys people who seemed pretty okay, if not great. And that sucks. And it makes it a little harder to watch for me. There are fun moments and fun episodes mixed in with some just like drag. And also like, I understand foreshadowing, but like there are characters introduced in season 1 that have not done anything yet, but we like go back to them, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a big deal at some point. And it's like, well, when? That's nitpicky. I still like the show. I'm talking like this is one I'm not going to watch. I'm still watching it. It's just this is a hard one to recommend to other people, because also I don't know how easy it is to watch the first season. It's not all on Crunchyroll, so it could be a little difficult. That might have changed. That's the last time I looked, so I apologize if I have incorrect information. Anyway, let's talk about the show I am watching, and I can tell you might want to check out. My Isekai Life, I gained a second character class and became the strongest sage in the world. Obviously based on a light novel, and there's also a manga. I've read the manga. I've enjoyed it. This is a very simple story. That the anime is it's a bit of a bummer the way the anime tells it, in that the anime chooses to start with like chapter 6 or 5 of the manga, just with the action happening, and it's like, here's a lot of action. You can see our dude, you can see the slimes that he's working with, you get a good sense of what's going on with the story. But it doesn't tell you that it's an isekai. The title tells you this is an isekai, but the first episode doesn't. And in the second episode, there's a flashback, and you get the sense of what happened. And look, there's not a lot of details, but like, how does he have all this magic? How does he meet all these slimes? When does he meet Proud Wolf, the wolf that he rides on that has like a sometimes cowardly, sometimes heroic personality? Hey, he's friends with some kind of dryad in the first episode. What's up with that? There's just like a lot of things where you're like, I just think people might be sick of origin stories, but why are they watching brand new anime if they're sick of origin stories? Because every brand new anime starts with the origin. So just starting with it being like an action thing feels like a bad choice, in my opinion. I think I generally much prefer it. The same thing with Kuma 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 Bear, where it was like, is this a video game world? This is an isekai? What's going on? I thought this was an isekai. And then like 2 episodes in, you're like, oh, this is an isekai. Okay. I don't like that. I much prefer it the other way. But I like the story. I like Yuji. And now he's like kind of cagey. We get the sense that, well, we don't have a lot of information about how he was this guy. This is the guy that may have worked himself to death, that was really sick of the corporate structure and dealing with people, and kind of wants to be a loner. He's a good guy, but he kind of wants to do his own thing. And he also has a bunch of slime companions. And of course, he's a tamer, and because he's a tamer, that is, and this is a story where people have to think poorly of him before they realize how great he is. Yeah, he's a tamer, but it doesn't, and people don't like that and think it's the weakest class. But he's clearly an exceptional tamer. And there's a cult he's got to deal with. You know, video game stuff inside of... It's not a video game, but like it's basic isekai storytelling for these kind of action series. Of course, there's a cult that he's got to face. I enjoy it. I'm watching it right now. It's on High Dive. I like it. I also am interested in Black Summoner. At the time of recording this video, I am halfway through episode 2 of Black Summoner. I like the manga of this. Kelvin, our main character, is a battle junkie that died and was reincarnated. And we don't know much more than that because he doesn't know much more of that, because apparently in exchange for more cool, overpowered abilities, he gave up all his memories, which means we don't have to worry about the past version of Kelvin too much. And also, it kind of explains why he's so overpowered. He's a summoner, and he's the strongest summoner in the world. And also, his AI companion, like his kind of like voice in his head navigator, is the goddess of reincarnation, who's just like, yeah, you told me you love me, and you wanted me to make a contract with you. So when you are strong enough, even though he is going to be the strongest summoner, he's still not strong enough to summon her. He's like, eventually you'll summon me, and that'll be cool, and then we can just hang out. And he's like, great. I accept all of that information. And we get the sense that he's definitely like a battle junkie. Like, he's asking for all this stuff because he wanted to have a cool, strong, high-powered deal. He makes a partner. The partner already has a lot of personality. We're going to see probably more cool partners in the... Not probably. Soon, we will see more cool partners show up, more summons, and enemies that need defeating, and there's at least one character that is a problem, but I don't even know if we're going to run into her in this season. She is a bit of a problem. She's very stereotypical in a way that is a real bummer, but as far as I know, she is... I don't think she'll be in this season, because I've read a lot of this manga. But maybe she will, and maybe it'll be handled fine. So anyway, maybe by the end of this show, I'll be like, ugh. But I'm just telling you my opinions on the 7 isekai that are out in the summer 2022. These are not generally recommendations. They're just my opinions on these shows and what I think of them. And maybe you can use the information I'm presenting to do that. So this is not my, like, last season I did like 4 romantic comedies to watch this season, and I recommended all of them, and I stand by all those recommendations. This is a little different, hopefully, for you. Anyway, let's talk about Parallel World Pharmacy. I'm sorry, the name of this is a little different than what was floating out there before. Parallel World Pharmacy. Only 1 episode I've seen so far. So again, can't make a pure judgment, but I'm saying I am interested in watching this. This is part of the yes column, where I am interested in keeping going with this. Guy died. We actually see him die. We see a little bit of the former person died. He in his new world, he goes by the name Pharma, with an F, and he's reborn in a world of science and sorcery, where there are gods and there is magic, and he has like kind of vibes of what happened in the body he's taken over. I assumed that kid died because he was struck by lightning. So I assume he died, and then his soul took over, and it wasn't just like... It's possible that the lightning allowed his new memories to surface, or his old ones, but it feels like this is just like a takeover. Anyway, he's blessed by the god of medicine. He's got all these powers. By the end of episode 1, his teacher is freaked the fuck out because suddenly Pharma has all of these godlike skills that he should not have and that are preposterous, and she is genuinely scared about what's going on. So I like that because generally, I would say, when you are talking about the overpowered main character, most people around them are like, what? And then they're like, okay, I guess. And you'd think maybe in this one you could be like, yeah, I guess I got blessed by God when I got struck by lightning. And she would go, oh, that's awesome. But instead she's like, that's terrifying. Look, there are stories where the main character is shunned. But generally they're shunned in like their previous life, and then they're reincarnated and they're like better off. But, you know, like sometimes they do get shunned, or they get shunned in like the first moment of the episode so that we can then get to the part where they are now building their own society or village or find people who do accept them, that kind of thing. Whereas this one is just like, oh yeah, all right, I guess everybody's just gonna be scared shitless of this kid for a while. I haven't read this manga. I'm aware of the manga, but I have not checked it out. But I am interested in seeing where this goes, because it's just like, okay, it's an overpowered main character who also is a doctor. Fun. And so he's going to use his knowledge of science and his knowledge of magic to help people. And then there's also going to be some action, but also medical stuff. Fun. Interesting. Eventually, I will watch Uncle from Another World. It's hard to find good promotional art for this, so I went with this like the mangaka doing the art, which I appreciate because... So this is on Netflix, and I don't have Netflix right now, so I'm not watching it. So like I said, eventually I will watch it. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. I will watch this in the future, but right now I am not checking it out because I don't have Netflix, as I said. Part of the draw of this particular series is that it is a mix of what happens after you're done being summoned. Our main character has been in a coma, and while he was in that coma, he was in a fantasy world, and he did not have a great time there. And now he's back, and so he is talking with his nephew, this is why Uncle from Another World, about that. And we know pretty instantly it wasn't a hallucination, it wasn't any kind of weird thing. While he was in a coma, he did experience all this because he still has magical abilities. So it's partly him getting settled into society again after this long period of time. One of the first things he asks is like, how's Sega doing? Because he was a Sega fanboy. And he's like, oh, okay. So he's got to find out a bunch of stuff about what happened. But also, he is telling tales of his time in Isekai. And it was not great. You get a little sense from this art style here, but it's even more... He's one of the ugliest main characters I've ever seen. On purpose, because... he's not like the worst thing in the world, but he is considered to be an incredibly ugly human. It is a running gag that he runs into people and they think a monster is about to attack them. He's very strong. He's got a good sense of duty. Sometimes it's misunderstandings, like there's some tsundere girls and stuff like that, but he doesn't quite understand tsundere, his term wasn't invented before he went to the other world, which is a good little gag. But yeah, mostly it's just like he has a rough fucking time there, and so it's a comedy because it is looking at the sad stories of his life interspersed with him like trying to figure out this world. So it's mostly stories from the past, and it's some with interruptions by his nephew, and it's some him in the present, but it's less in the present than in the past, I should say. And so this is one that like is eventually, but not right now. Because I don't have Netflix, so I will get to it at some point. And that's different from the reason why I'm not currently planning on watching The Devil is a Part-Timer Season 2. That's a different reason in that I don't really have the interest in it. I didn't love the first season. I liked it. It's been many years. I think that the the interpersonal relationships between the characters were fine, but not like the reason to watch. I think the animation was solid. I think the comedy was there, the humor was there, the action was good. I don't know how this season is going to go. I don't know how the art style is going to be because it's a different studio, different director. Music is different. It's been so long. I don't know. Source material is still the same, obviously. I believe almost immediately a child is born of some kind of magic and they have to raise a kid. And, like, if that's the whole season, I don't know. So I'm, like, indifferent about this one. I will probably check it at some point, but I'm not going to be watching it, like, weekly. It'll probably be, like, when there's a gap in my schedule, I'll get caught up and go through a marathon of it. But I don't know. And then so that's 6 so far. I got one more to talk to you about. And if you're like, Pat, what's this one that you were like, no, I am not watching this? What could it possibly be? Well, it's the one it's just too horny. It is Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World. I have to be clear about that because it feels like the prepositions are weird in that one. Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World. It's a isekai about a guy that wakes up in a fantasy world with skills and abilities, and he can feel like it's a video game where other people don't have that kind of information. And what does he plan to do? Dive into the labyrinth to earn money, to get himself a house. Great. So he can also buy slaves and have sex with them and have them support him in the labyrinth. So he can continue to live his slow life. And I hate him. And I don't love that as a premise for a story. I think you can maybe understand why I'm not super into it. Look, do a lot of these shows have harems? Of course they do. Honestly, the ones this season, like Black Clover is the closest. Not Black Clover, Black Summoner. Black Clover is a different anime. Black Summoner is probably the closest of all the isekai I mentioned here that will have multiple women in it. But even then, it's not really going that route. Like, from the moment one, he's working towards summoning the goddess that he had professed his love to. Like, my Isekai Life, there are, like, ladies, but they're not, like, around or into him. So honestly, like, that trope of the, like, being attracted to a bunch of ladies having around isn't really in this one. Or in the other ones, but it is obviously in this one, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not super into it. So I'm not going to be watching this. If you're watching this, enjoy it. I hope you like it. I hope it's fun. I hope you like the thing you... Look, just read it, because the thing you want most from this, if this is what you're into, isn't going to be in the TV version that's going to be on Crunchyroll. It's not even on High Dive, which usually has the ones that I'm like, yikes, about. This is on Crunchyroll. It's not going to be something they're not going to give you what you want. So just read the manga, I guess. I don't know. I'm sorry I'm down on that. And I'm sorry that's how I end the summer 2022 isekai. Maybe I should have started with the one I didn't want to watch the most and then get to the ones that I'm like, these are fine. Anyway, so yeah. The one I'm most excited about is Black Summoner because I've really enjoyed the manga. I'm intrigued by Parallel World Pharmacy. My Isekai Life, I know what I'm getting with it. I think it'll be fun. Overlord Season 4, more Overlord. This could be the last season I watch of it. Devil's PartTimer Season 2. Uncle from Another World, eventually. And Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World. No, thank you. So that's all of it. And that is this episode for Pat Bear's Anime Club. If you have some stuff you'd like to see me cover, please let me know in the comments below. What are you watching this season? Are you watching any of the 7 shows I talked about tonight or today? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you about that. And again, if you have ideas for future videos, I know the next one I'm doing is probably going to be another weird manga premises one because I really enjoyed that last time and I have more and some of it suggested to me. So I will talk about more weird premises for manga and there'll probably be at least one isekai in that. So thanks so much for watching this video. Again, leave a comment, leave a like, tell a friend. If you have a friend that's really into anime that's asking you about what to watch this season, maybe one of these will be something they'll be into. They're available on Crunchyroll and High Dive and Netflix. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.